Hey, I went live yesterday and it got almost 1,700 views. I think it did get 1,700 views, so it seemed like a lot of people enjoyed watching and I got some positive comments. I'd like to start off by pointing out that I'm nobody. I'm not a medical professional, I'm not a dietitian, I don't have any certifications that tell you that you have to listen to me. So, if you feel like I don't know what I'm talking about, you don't want to listen to me, that's fine. I have no authority given to me by anybody. So either I make sense or I don't. I wanted to go over a bunch of the questions that I've been seeing in the forum and run them down real quick. Dawn Martinez asks, is breakfast still the most important meal of the day? Research on that maybe suggests that we eat too much, and the eating continuously throughout the day can be problematic for some people. Nutrition is very individualized. With respect to blood sugar, there's something known as the dawn effect that some people have where their blood sugar spikes in the morning. Our bodies try to put more glycogen into the bloodstream, and then we have an insulin response between 4 to 6 a.m. if your circadian rhythms are normal. And so for some people, breakfast can be a factor in regulating that, either by kick-starting their response, their insulin response, by eating something can control their blood sugar. Other people, it's part of their routine and habits. You have to acknowledge that eating is also a cultural thing for people. But there seems to be a lot more research supporting the idea of fasting, intermittent fasting, or longer periods in between eating, or at least not eating all day long. So if you're going to late night eat, maybe breakfast can be pushed back. If you're going to eat first thing in the morning, maybe stop eating earlier in the day. And as far as keto goes, it's not a super keto question. As far as keto goes, whenever you get your 50 carbohydrates is fine. There may be optimal, but breakfast doesn't matter. Another person that says, in the first 5 days, I lost 3.3 pounds, but the scale hasn't budged at all. Don't look at the scale until you're 30 days in. First of all, when you do lose weight, it's probably water weight. For every gram of glycogen your body stores, it stores 2 grams of water. That's just a biomolecular truth of how you store glycogen. You will exactly 2 grams of water, not like generic water weight, but specifically 2 grams of H2O for every 1 gram of glycogen stored. So when you deplete your body of glycogen, you're going to lose specifically water weight. Not like a vague term for water weight, but specifically water in grams leaving the body. And a lot of the effects of ketosis and being fat adapted aren't going to show up till week 3 or 4. So how you feel 5 days in, 10 days in, it's interesting. I don't want to tell you no one cares, but probably only your friends and family care. Anybody that's really familiar with this diet is aware that you're going to have all kinds of wacky stuff go on for about 2 weeks. And as far as what to do about it, we know that at least the literature supports the vast majority of it's going to go away as you become fat adapted. So the answer to what to do about it is nothing, just keep eating keto. Next question is really involved. I'm going to skip that one. Fat adapted, what does it actually mean and when does it happen? From Rachel Willard. Fat adapted, what it means is there are different cycles inside the body, the Krebs cycle and other cycles that have specific biological names. I'm not going to drown people in that stuff. I've read about them. I can put together notes and give a more specific speech about what specific endocrinological activities go on that produce the energy that you need. But the basic concept is that your body does cycle in and out of using certain sources of fuel, and specifically the metabolization, wow, I can't talk this morning, the metabolization of fat requires some enzymes in the liver that build up over time if you have a diet that's high in fat. So when does it actually happen? Depends on the person. Week 3, week 4. I would say a safe bet is by week 6 or 7. It should happen for almost everybody if you're regularly eating a ketogenic diet, something under 50 carbohydrates per day. fat adaptation will come in over that period. And what that means is that your primary source of fuel is fat. And I want to talk about ketosis and a diet. Diet means what an organism eats over a period of time. So when you talk about I have a ketogenic diet, that's not talking about a ketogenic meal or a ketogenic food item or a ketogenic day. That's talking about if we looked at the total number of calories your body metabolized over the course of, say, a week, is it mostly fat? And if it's mostly fat, then you're fat adapted, or at least you're on your way to being fat adapted. And if you continue having that sort of spread of your weekly diet being primarily fat, week after week, you're going to end up metabolizing fat easily and returning to a ketogenic state. And it's a chemical reaction, like many chemical reactions. It tends to build on itself. So the more of these reactions form, the more reactants come out the other side. So if the conditions for reaction stay in place, a deficit of insulin and carbohydrates, then you have the conditions for this reaction to chain. And so the concept of a chain reaction plays into ketosis a little bit. And when you become fat adapted, starting the chain reactions that begin the ketosis process and the burning of fat is easier to come by. So that's when cheat meals or cheat food items aren't going to bother you as much. And that's when you're going to have more consistent energy throughout the day because you're efficiently metabolizing fat, providing the energy you need, rather than getting it from glucose from the food that you eat. Tried an avocado this morning. It's kind of bland. How do you all make them taste good? First of all, they love salt. Second of all, I like to add pepper. I don't know if you guys like spicy stuff. Sriracha has a little bit of sugar in it, but from the same company as something called chili garlic paste, or referred to in recipes as sambal. I like to put sambal on my avocados. And bacon, dude, bacon. The crispiness, because it's mushy. Especially if you mix in, say, hard-boiled eggs. Hard-boiled eggs, mayonnaise, and avocado, that's going to be mushy. So you throw in bacon. I threw in turkey bacon this morning. As anybody that's doing a lot of keto will tell you, like, why turkey bacon? Why high in protein, lower in fat? You could have just had bacon. Because it was in my fridge, and I didn't want to waste the food. That's why it was on sale. And it was delicious. So turkey bacon works too. But also pork rinds. Crazy, but you can crumble pork rinds up in your avocado. That will make them taste good and less bland, and add some of the salt. Coke Zero, yes or no? Hotly debated. Okay, so some of your artificial sweeteners will cause an insulin response. I'm pretty sure that aspartame and sucralose are the two main culprits there. Some of the other ones like stevia and erythritol should not. Some people don't like them because they're more of a processed, refined chemical. They're definitely not providing much nutritive value. There's still some sort of digestion that needs to occur. There's a breakdown or an absorption somewhere in the body, so it's taxing the body for no real payoff. But I get mad with all these people saying that foods aren't keto. Keto is a typical way of the diet. All right, so if you're consuming less than 300 grams of carbs in a week, then you're keto. It's not about a food being keto or a drink being keto. If you're not consuming enough carbohydrates to live, and I've covered in my other videos that you can't consume enough protein to substitute your carbs for protein, you have to be eating fats. You're keto. Coke Zero, probably not a good idea. I mean, probably any empty calorie drink with artificial sweeteners is probably not optimal for health. But as far as it hurting ketosis, not really. So Coke Zero, probably fine. Not ideal, not recommended, not suggested. If you want to be optimal in your human health, if you want to be as pure as you possibly can, don't do that. But keep in mind that clean eating can become a food and eating disorder itself. So don't go crazy. If you really, really love sugary beverages, maybe transition to Coke Zero. I recommend seltzer. Seltzer maybe mixed with heavy whipping cream gives you kind of a cream soda flavor that kind of tastes like it has sugar in it. So there's other options, but yeah, going to all no-calorie drinks is tough. Experiment with tea, and don't add sugar to that either. What do I absolutely need to make fat bombs? I keep finding different recipes with different ingredients. What about basic ones? I'm needing something sweet. Fat bombs. Okay. They're fun to make videos about. They get a lot of views. That's why I think people make a lot of videos about them. And there's a lot of different things you can do because it's a very basic concept. How do you flavor some sort of fat? And there's 1,000 ways to do that. I worry about them because they tend to be really empty calories. The best one I've made was 4 tablespoons of cream cheese, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream, and 2 tablespoons of sour cream, which super has to be eaten when it's basically frozen because at room temperature that will melt. If you're having trouble staying full and you're eating your recommended amount of proteins, yeah, fat bombs might be a good idea, but I would make them in the tiny candy size, no bigger than a quarter. I use some big, almost like hard-boiled egg size molds, and that is just a lot of fat to put in your mouth at one time, and the mouthfeel of it might not be great. And the ones that are almost pure coconut oil, those almost always taste waxy and like coconut. They almost never taste like anything else. So I would not spend too much money making fat bombs. Eat real food. Try to eat some fatty meats and stuff like that. Get yourself a chuck roast. And also save the fat from that. If you cook it in a crock pot, you can make some really fatty gravies you can add to anything, including vegetables, to increase their fat content. I've seen some posts over heavy whipping cream, over half and half. I bought some heavy whipping cream thinking it was just pure cream. There is carrageenan in it. I'll leave that one alone. It sounds like somebody has some sort of thickening gum in their heavy whipping cream. I don't really want to get into that. I'm not really familiar with that food additive. Day 5, haven't lost a pound, but my clothes are a lot looser. My tummy's going down, and my blood sugar has gone down. So, yes, blood sugar changes will be profound and immediate. Not all the way. I mean, I've taken mine from pretty much diabetic levels to almost normal levels in a month. But they will drop faster. Your body composition will go down. She's probably losing water weight. But again, she's probably not really entered serious fat burning. So at day 5, she's probably not lost belly fat weight. And you want to be cautious getting overexcited. Question about gastric surgery. Never had it, never considered it. Just broke down and cheated after 3.5 weeks with a bowl of cereal, and boy am I paying for it. Yes, a lot of people will experience gastric distress when they go from being keto to not. This mainly has to do with the gut biome. It's one of the things that keto may have to its advantage. When you starve the body of carbs, you starve your gut microbiome of carbohydrates and the bacteria that live down there that feast on those carbohydrates. There's different bacteria that specialize in proteins and fats versus carbohydrates. So when the mix of your food changes, the mix of your bowels is going to change, which can have mood effects and other effects. And so when you go back to a carb load, some gastric distress may happen. And it happens probably less because of sliding out of ketosis. Your body's probably fine processing and working with the glucose. It probably has more to do with the gut microbiome reacting to the change in substrates. And you get blooms of things like yeast. This diet has me so confused. In fact, I'm confused on what I'm confused about. Amanda Russell. Just eat less carbs. The standard American diet has so many carbs that a typical American will eat 200 to 300 carbohydrates in a day. No problem. Just don't do that. If you look at the medical studies, low carb, high fat diets work even when they define low carb as under 150 grams of carbs. And that's not anywhere low enough to get into ketosis. It still works. Fat has higher satiation. It will lower your insulin levels. You will have less hunger strikes. You should start eating less if you just move away from a carbohydrate diet. Think about that. Most Americans eat 200 to 400 grams of carbohydrates a day. If you can get down to 150 or 100, you're already improving your health. But this diet has me so confused. Okay, find a way to eat less than 50 grams of carbohydrates. And if you don't know how to do that, just look at the back of the package, and if it has enough carbohydrates that if you were to eat it all day long, that you would have too many carbohydrates, then it's probably not a food you should be eating. And you can just stick with that, and that's it. Just 50 grams of carbohydrates. When you get hungry enough and you want to know, how do I still eat? I'm out of carbohydrates for the day, you will find fatty foods. You will find foods that don't contain carbohydrates. You'll look at the back of a package of bacon, you'd be like, son of a bitch, I can eat this whole thing. I can eat pork rinds, I can have hard-boiled eggs. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of things that you can eat that don't have carbohydrates in them. So if you're confused about the diet, just eat less than 50 carbohydrates and nothing else matters. You don't need to know about insulin. You don't need to know about fat bombs. You don't need to know what bulletproof coffee is. None of that shit. Those are things that you can add on to make this diet more fun for you, or to meet needs or cravings that you have. But just eat less than 50 carbs. That's it. That's the whole diet. If you eat, you will generally enter ketosis and you should be good. I had to ignore a phone call there. So Amanda Russell, please eat less than 50 carbs. We love you. Eat less than 50 carbs and survive your first month, because nothing will matter until you make it to a month. So this forum's a great place to ask people how to survive that first month, things that you miss eating that you might be able to simulate with something else. I don't really recommend copycat recipes where you figure out how to make keto pancakes. Pancakes just aren't a very keto recipe. Find keto recipes you love rather than trying to fake carbohydrate meals with non-carbohydrate foods. But hey, if you want to try keto pancakes, by all means, go ahead. I'm struggling with my morning coffee. I used to drink 1% milk in my coffee, and I've been trying heavy whipping cream, and it's just so gross. Is there anything closer to milk I can use? Yeah, thin out your heavy whipping cream with water. Shake it up, and then pour it in there. You're probably adding too much heavy whipping cream, and you don't have enough water in there. You could add a small amount of erythritol, which would add some of the sugars that you're going to get from milk. Milk sugars are a big reason why you can't have it. So if you add one of those fake sugars in there with your whipping cream, you might get more to the sweetness balance that you're familiar with your milk. I started keto on Saturday. I'm overweight. Third knee surgery 2 months ago, and I need to get healthy and get this weight off my poor knees. I normally weigh myself on Wednesdays, but I weighed myself on Saturday, and I'm down 8.8 pounds since I started. Must be doing something right. Okay, I don't know where you started, but if you're talking about when you started keto and you're still referring to a day of the week, you're too early in. So, I'm glad you've lost some water weight, but stay with it. You will lose more weight in month 2, Christy Niece. But multiple studies on weight loss interventions have found that low-carb, high-fat diets are one of the best ways to have a weight loss intervention. I can't get into those studies following up on long-term nutrient effects, or some people said some bullshit about osteoporosis. I don't know, but as far as weight loss and weight intervention goes, and specifically with a knee problem, Christy, I'm sure you're on the right diet for that particular medical problem. Again, I'm not a doctor. I can't give medical advice, whatever else. Take me as a comedian that talks about nutrition. Yep. I started this way of eating today, finally, after weeks of reading up on all the keto groups I joined. I went shopping last night, and in preparation for it, and for the first time I started reading labels. There is a ton of sugar in all the things I used to enjoy. I just keep telling myself I do this because it's necessary. I don't want to die from obesity. Food manufacturers play to your addiction. They know that if they put something in there that you're generally addicted to, then you're going to eat it, and you're going to eat a lot of it, and they know that, and it was part of their design. So yeah, they're aware of our sugar problem. They put sugar in their foods for that reason. That's why a lot of your favorite foods have sugar in it, because you're addicted to sugar. Just remember that keto isn't what did that to you. Your old favorite foods are what did that to you. Try to keep that in mind as you push through. Amaka, thank you for watching. And Rodrigo, I'm glad you've been eating less. I don't try to eat less. I don't. I eat less carbs, that's it, and then I eat as much as I want. Still, I'm not hungry anymore, and for me that's been hundreds of less calories than my metabolic rate suggests. Sometimes up to 1,000 less calories. But that's not, I mean, I'm doing this for blood sugar. I'm not doing it for weight loss. I would like to lose weight, but it's not been part of this month's goal at all, and I'm both losing weight, not hitting my calorie goals, and feeling full all the time. What's the best fasting to try to lose 10 pounds? I want to see Wonderland. I assume she means 100 pounds because she spelled it with a 1. Just drink water and don't eat food. Medically, fasting has been studied a lot. It's not keto. You can fast. Fast is typically safe. Somebody once under medical supervision, fasted for 380 days. Depends on how much body fat you have, but I'm not a big fan of super long fasting. I'm not a super fan of trying to lose 10 pounds quickly. I don't like the question. I feel the goals are wrong. I feel they're not aimed at health. Look, I said something the other day in the video, I want to go back to it. All the time with clients and business organization problems, too many emails, not having their accounting work straight, things like that. I tell them the problem, they acknowledge the problem, they want to fix the problem, and they want the problem to be going away a week later or 2 weeks. They say, what can we do to get rid of this? It took you years to cause those problems. It's going to take you years to solve them. Look, I didn't get fat this year. I got fat slowly over a little bit more than a decade. So stop asking how you can lose 10 pounds or see Wonderland. Learn a new way to eating that's going to help you lose weight over years. You didn't get fat in a day. You're not going to get thin in a day. Why don't we change our eating habits and see what happens after a year or two, and see if we can just get the scale moving in the right direction over the years and weeks and months, rather than asking how do we get 10 pounds down and see Wonderland. Somebody's showing a keto stick and they got positive, feeling proud. Do you cheat at all? I have a pool party Saturday and I'm going to drink alcohol, so I'm going to go out of ketosis. How long will it take me to get back to drink or not to drink? What do you say? Okay, so there are fewer carbs in a lot of alcoholic things than people think. And if you're eating really low carbs, sometimes I only get 10 carbs a day. Then that means I could have 3 beers and stay pretty much in ketosis, because that's going to be 20 grams of carbs if I'm drinking something like, say, Bud Light has 3.3 carbs. And with Michelob Ultra, even less. And technically with things like vodka, none at all. Now the fourth macronutrient is alcohol. Your body will stop processing fat while it's processing the alcohol. Depending on how much alcohol you had or how long you've been drinking, your ketosis processes can settle down and stop completely if you drank a lot of alcohol or you drank for a really long time. But the insulin response is what we're mostly worried about, and that comes in, especially if Roy Abergel is trying to lose weight. Insulin can be a real big problem, so the carbs in drinking, as far as wine and beer, are going to cause that insulin response. Especially some of the heavier IPA type beers can be very heavy in carbs. I would say Roy, drink some alcohol. I would say drink some vodka. Only have a few. Keto is a way of life, not something that you have to maintain every single day. So unless you're going to parties every day, one evening of having 2 or 3 or 5 shots of vodka, you know, eat clean the next day, go for a walk in the morning, push yourself back into ketosis, find a way to burn those alcohol calories or any glycogen that you may have generated from drinking a beer or two. Get yourself back into ketosis. The fastest way to get back to ketosis after cheating is exercise and water. So go ahead, Roy, drink on your weekend, I say. And as far as the keto strips, since he's showing the picture of one, yes, I use them. Yes, I'm in ketosis. Right now I'm pissing 8.0 to 16. Earlier I was pissing 1.5 to 4. I don't think the darkness of your stick matters, but I do think that they're really great feedback to know that you're doing the diet at least correctly enough that you're in a ketogenic state some of the time. I think people can very easily get lost and think they have to be in ketosis every minute of every day. That is not true. You want to see that you're in ketosis most of the time that you test. That's the goal. And any color at all, including trace, is fine. If you're seeing any color at all on the stick and you see a color on the stick most of the time, you're doing keto right. But don't get too crazy about that. Also, if you stop seeing colors after being keto for a really long time, I have heard that your ketones stop spilling into your urea as you become increasingly fat adapted. So after 3 or 6 months, your sticks stop testing positive, but you're still eating keto. Chances are you're still keto, and you would need a blood meter to prove that. And blood meters are like $4 a test, and keto sticks are like 6 cents a test. So I don't recommend doing blood metering. If you're 6 months in and you were doing the sticks before and you're pretty sure you're keto, just stay on it. And if you're feeling the same symptoms of keto, stay on it. You're probably keto. If you really, for some reason, don't believe yourself, get the blood test and pay for those $4 sticks. I test my blood glucose, which won't tell you if you're keto, but it's the exact same like system. There's a finger prinker, there's a little stick, you gotta soak up your blood, it'll tell you your levels. It's the most accurate way to tell if you're keto. It's just super expensive. If you're rich, go for it. Somebody posted their breakfast: keto cream cheese pancakes, 3 strawberries, and sausage with Walden Farm syrup. Good point is that, like, if you go really light on the syrup, you know, and things like that, syrup is super not keto. Probably not even Walden Farm syrup, although they may use some sort of artificial, I don't know what Walden Farm syrup is, but it doesn't matter. Soda is keto if you drink 5 milliliters of it. So if you absolutely have to have a craving. I was at a party, I wanted chips. I had 3 barbecue potato chips. I know people say, I bet you can't eat just one. I've had people tell me I can't do it. I have done it. It's great. Have a potato chip. Just don't have, like, you know, one handful of potato chips. But people that aren't on a low carb diet, they sit with a bag and they eat 16 ounces of potato chips. So have a half-ounce potato chips. You know, that's gonna end up being keto pretty much, because it won't add. Very small amounts of food are not gonna add up to a high carb count because carbs have weight. So an ounce of food can at most be 28 grams of carbs, because that's what an ounce weighs. You can't have more than 28 grams of carbs in an ounce. So if you have a half ounce of potato chips, even if they're pure carbs, they can only be 14 grams of carbs. And if the rest of what you eat in a day is low carb, and sometimes I'm under 10 carbs, then you can pretty much eat 14 grams of potato chips. So this whole gotta be perfect. Not keto. The Olay Extreme Wellness High Fiber Low Carb Tortillas. So people are saying that they're whole grains, blah blah blah. It's net carbs. A lot of these tortilla manufacturers, and I actually used to work for a tortilla manufacturer, they're throwing dietary fiber in there. They're throwing like psyllium husk in there to round out the fiber of the tortilla, which you don't digest and doesn't affect your insulin. And then some people are saying grains aren't keto. Okay, you can have that argument with me if you want. I would say keto is if you're in ketosis most of the time, then that is a ketogenic diet. And you can be in ketosis while eating grains as long as your total net carb intake is under 50, probably under 20, depending on what type of individual you are. But if you're having less than 20 net carbs in a day, you're probably keto, even if you eat whole grains with really high fiber content. Now, that being said, these are small wraps, and they were like something like 5 net carbs for 1. So if you eat 2 with your lunch, that's half your carb allotment for the day, even though it's low carb. And there's probably a carb or 2 in even like lettuce that you might put on a tortilla. So if you don't have extremely high fat, extremely low carb fixings, and then you have a 3 carb tortilla shell, like what we're saying is you may get in danger of having too many carbs. But foods aren't keto or not keto. Foods are vegan or not vegan. Foods are kosher or not kosher. Those are white and black rules. Keto is not about a set of foods that are keto and are not keto. They're about staying in ketosis most of the time, which is about not eating a lot of net carbs or digestible carbs. That's what net carbs mean. Any carb that your body can physically break down. So some kinds of fiber, insoluble fiber only, you will poop out. Soluble fiber you can digest and absorb and can produce an insulin response, although not the same kind as, say, pure sugar. But net carbs only remove one of the 2 kinds of sugar, and they refer to the sugar that your body, or the carbohydrates your body is actually going to break down, which is why people count net carbs. I just count total carbs because net carbs aren't well indicated on American food packages, and so it's just easier for me to count total carbs. But I do know that things like avocados and green beans are a little bit of an exception to the rule due to their carb content, so I discount their carbs a little bit. Another post, down 6 pounds, 2.5 weeks, yay keto. I hate discouraging these people because I want them to feel good about the weight they've lost, but it's not a healthy way to look at the diet. Any weight that you've lost in the first 2 weeks is bullshit and probably primarily water. You should pay attention to the weight you're gonna lose in month 2, because that will be almost exclusively belly fat weight. Look forward to month 2. Don't give a shit about what happens in month 1, because if I celebrate this woman for being down 6 pounds in 2.5 weeks, then somebody else that's 2.5 weeks in and is down 0 pounds or up 3 pounds thinks they're a problem. They're not. This woman is maybe successful but maybe not. I mean, it's good that she's losing the water weight. That's probably an indication she's depleted her glycogen. So it's a good sign, but it's probably not real weight loss. And why do I say that? Because it says 2.5 weeks. Fat adaptation is a metabolic process that takes 3-4 weeks on a whole. Ooh, I calculated my macros today. Macro calculators. Everybody talks about these. I will never get to 2,400 calories a day. I have never counted my calories much. Never going to make it past 2,000. I do not know, because a lot of these people don't tell me. I would have to look in their comments, but that is a lot of calories. Now, for a very heavy person, that's possible. And I'm not trying to discourage very heavy people. I really do believe that weight loss is largely a hormonal problem. There's a lot of medications, there's a lot of medical conditions, there's a lot of reasons that somebody could weigh 300 or 500 pounds. I'm not certified to talk on that. I have weighed 265. I'm 6 foot tall, so if your BMI is in the 30s, I feel like I can talk to you about the struggles you're going through. If you're up above that, I don't. So if this person really got 2,486 calories and they use that calculator right, I'm guessing they weigh 300 pounds. I don't know how high you have to go in weight before you're supposed to, but I at 225, 6 foot tall, moderately active and male, I'm getting about 2,000 calories, and to run a deficit 1,700, so 2,400 calories is a lot, and they say they'll never get to it. Well, your keto calculators aren't about trying to get to that number of Okay, keto calculators, Jesus Christ. So, first of all, if you don't set the total number of calories you have right in a day, it won't give you any of the other numbers right because it's using ratios. So, if it's telling you need 30% protein, but you put in there the calories for a 500-pound man and you're a 130-pound female, it's going to tell you to eat way too much protein. Second of all, the only thing you really need to know about keto is keep your carbs under 50. Other people are going to say 20. I'm doing 20. Keep your carbs under 20. Great, if you can. If you're under 50, don't feel so bad. It's probably a lot less carbs than you're eating. You're probably still reducing your insulin. You're probably still getting a lot of the medical benefits from ketosis. You may not be in ketosis as often. Reduce it to 20 if you can. But beyond that, protein. Most people are going to need somewhere between 90 and 130 for adult males. Just get protein. Protein's good for you. And then they say the fats. The fats, I'll explain this again real quickly. So I need 1,700 calories. Toxicity for me at protein is going to be 220 grams of processing protein is going to make me toxic. That's 4 calories per gram. That's 880 calories that I can get from protein, and that would be more than is medically suggested for me. So where do I get to my 1,700 calories? Well, if it's low carb, then it has to be high fat, because if I'm only getting 20 grams of carbohydrates at 4 calories per, then that's only another 80 calories. So toxicity in proteins, 880, plus carbs of 80 calories, that's 960. I'm supposed to make 1,700. That means tons of fat. So it's not about trying to eat fat. It's not about necessarily trying to eat a ton of protein. It's about not eating carbs, and as a result, the only things you can survive on are fat and protein. And if you try to survive on protein, you can't eat 300 grams of protein a day. It's unhealthy. So to get the energy you need, it will have to be high fat. You do not have to eat your fat total for the day. If you're not hungry, don't eat. Okay, that's part of what will be wonderful about ketosis. When you're in ketosis, your body fat that you already have is producing all of the energy you need pretty much. So if you don't feel like eating all day, it's okay. If you're in ketosis, drink water or whatever. Now, I'm not saying be anorexic. And for any of you that have eating disorders and that has led you to this as a furtherance of your trying dietary control, listen, if you have neurotic food control problems, you need to talk to at least your therapist and probably also your doctor about doing keto. But I've never had problems with bulimia or anorexia, and some days on keto, I'm just not hungry, and I'm not eating my recommended amounts of fat. No, that's a total. That's a limit. You don't want to eat more than that amount of fat. You're going to start to gain weight again. And the protein, that's a goal, because you don't want to be eating no protein and all fat. You need some protein to stay alive. It's required. But again, you're going to probably run into that protein with normal foods. The only thing that really matters about being keto, and this is way oversimplifying it, is just keep your carbs down. It's going to control your insulin responses. It's going to force your body to work off fats. It's going to cause ketosis to happen in medically normal individuals, and you're going to be on the money So the keto calculators, I think they give you too much numbers. Data overload, it drowns people. I'm a data analyst and consultant as part of my job, and I tell people, look at key performance indicators. Key performance indicators are data that are actually going to change what decisions you make. Two key performance indicators I don't think are important right now is what's on the keto calculator, how much weight loss you've had. Okay, if you're in your first month, I don't care about your weight loss. It shouldn't determine whether or not you're staying with keto. If you've had some, great. It's probably not belly fat loss. It's probably water loss, and but water loss will happen when you enter ketosis. So it's a sign you're doing it right, but I don't largely care. If you haven't had weight loss, you have had weight loss, neither one should be the reason that you continue a ketogenic diet for more than 30 days. You should continue a ketogenic diet for 30 days because you knew at the outset, or you should know now that you've heard me say it, that the processes of ketosis, the benefits of ketosis are pretty much not going to be here for 30 days. So your weight in the first 30 days should not be a key performance indicator because you shouldn't be paying attention to it. And then secondarily, the amount of calories that you eat are really not significant because you may still overeat early in ketosis, especially when you're not fat adapted. You're still gonna have cravings because your body has not yet started supplying all the energy you need. So just trim carbs in the beginning. If you end up with your total calorie input going up because in replacing carbs and not knowing how to cook for yourself, you're eating weird foods and you're eating a lot of them to try to stay hungry, that will go away as you become fat adapted. So don't worry about calories in or your weight for the first month, please. I would just, if everybody in this group would stop doing that, it would make me so much happier. I want to hear about your month 2 weight loss. That's belly fat weight loss. I do not want to hear about your calories early on. Eat until you're full. Don't be hungry in month 1. Just don't eat carbs and don't be hungry. And fat is your answer if you're still hungry. Well, I'm still hungry. Then eat a bag of pork rinds. You can eat as many bags of pork rinds as you want. They don't contain any calories. Just keep eating pork rinds until you're full. That's the answer to your question. Is that the most ideal food for you to be eating? No, its macronutrient profile is fine, but its micronutrients are very lacking. But again, you're not going to have major micronutrient deficiencies in a week. So just get through that transition period and worry about finding more rounded, healthful foods to eat as your ketogenic diet becomes a way of life. Not how you're eating for a week. You can eat too many pork rinds for a week, you'll be okay. Just keep your carbs down. That's what you need to do. I'm starting to run out of time, but I'm going to hit 1 or 2 more posts. The picture on the left is me today at 169. The picture on the right is 180 at 6:30. So she's been doing keto for about 11 days. Finally makes 2 weeks on the keto lifestyle, and I won't go back. 39 pounds still my goal. Probably all water weight loss. I believe you'll get to your goal. You're looking good. Stay with it, Desi. But your big fat losses are going to come soon. Good news for her is that she is 13 days in. At 18 days in, I started hitting keto and registering on keto sticks pretty regularly. Fat is going to start burning soon for her, especially because she's not really heavy. She may feel very heavy at 180. 180 for a female in America is a very common weight to be starting at. She's not in something that would be determined as critically obese by the medical community. So her insulin levels probably aren't out of control. She will probably become fat adapted faster. That's another thing I want to talk about. Listen, if you hear about all these people getting results, their keto sticks are showing up with positive results, they're losing more water weight, they're having less cravings, whatever. If you are critically obese, let me talk to you for a minute, okay? I've never been critically obese, but I've been 265. I had a conversation with my doctor, and they said that, that my weight wasn't a medical concern, but it would be good if I lost weight. And I said, it's not a medical concern. I'm fat. And they said, I wouldn't say that you're fat. I said, well, how does the BMI chart look? And in BMI, I was definitely beyond overweight. I was obese. They said, well, BMI has problems, and it certainly does. And I'm a more muscular guy than a lot of other people because I said in my last video I train MMA and stuff like that. I weightlift sometimes, so I had an athletic upbringing, so I have really big thighs from soccer and stuff. So I'm a more muscular guy. My BMI is going to be shifted. But anyway you looked at it, I said, okay, well then be real with me, doc. It would be to my medical advantage to lose what? And to ask another question, what would be too light for me? What would be a medically concerning weight? And she said that I could safely lose 100 pounds without causing any medical concern. That's overweight. So if you're critically obese, you probably have very high background insulin levels. It's probably going to take a long time or a longer time for you to become fat adapted. So that's why when I say fat adaptation, I say 6 to 8 weeks. Now for me, it hit in like 18 days, but I'm on the boundary between overweight and obese. And I used to be really obese and much further than that. So I've lost 40 pounds really before I started this journey. Now, I'm running out of time. I hope this was some good information. I'm going to respond to every comment below. I don't sell anything. I don't do anything. I'm not a nutrition professional. I'd like to cap this off. This isn't my medical advice. I don't sell any shit. I don't recommend most of the supplements like exogenous ketones or any of the crap like that anyways. I'm not represented or sponsored by anybody. I just read a lot of medical papers. I look at PubMed and NIH publications for most of my information. I do read blogs and other things to get ideas, but then I try to cross-check those ideas with actual medical research. Anybody that really wants medical citation for some of the ridiculous things I've said or wants to come at me and feels that I'm misleading people, I'd be more than happy, if you do it respectfully, to discuss it with you in the comments below. I have citations for most of the things. I just didn't organize them because this isn't what I do and it's not what I professionally have done. They're just things I've read, and I'll probably remember enough of the keywords that if you ask nicely, I will Google it and find you actual studies, and you can decide for yourself. Maybe it was not enough people, maybe it was too old of a study, maybe it wasn't published in a reputable enough journal for you, and that is fine. This is your health. Take it seriously. I'm just some fucking dude, and if you disagree with me, don't listen to me. Eat however you want. But for me, this has been working, and I'm sharing what I've read and what I've learned and trying to simplify it for people that seem to be confused. Eat less than 50 carbs. Have a wonderful day. I love you guys. I'll be back soon.